Well, welcome, Alex, and welcome, everyone. Today, we are joined by someone very special whose story embodies the heart of the work that we do at the Prison Mindfulness Institute. Our guest today, Alex Senegal. Am I saying your name correctly?
Yes,
Senegal?
totally. Yes. Probably say it
Alex
better than
Senegal.
I do.
Oh, good. Alex Senegal is an ambassador and board member of the Enneagram Prison Project. Uh, and you're also a father, a grandfather, a minister, a counselor, and a longtime advocate for people who are on the margins.
Yes,
And
definitely.
yes, and you've spent 26 years in and out of the California prison system. And it was there that in 2014, you discovered the Enneagram, a tool that you have described as a tool that introduced Alex to Alex. So I'm
Yes.
grateful for your joining me today to share some of your stories, share your journey. And so let's jump in, shall we?
Sure.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So I think we'll start there because that's an intriguing statement, Alex, when you said that the Enneagram introduced Alex to Alex. I'm curious if you'd be willing to share a little bit about what led you to that moment of recognition and what you began to understand about yourself, specifically as you have self-identified as an Enneagram Type 9. What
Right.
was happening where Alex just became alive for you at some point as an Enneagram 9 through this tool?
Right. When I was released, when I came off the life sentence
Mm-hmm.
and I came back into the community and I started doing all this good stuff. I went back to college and I graduated college being a substance abuse counselor and a mental health specialist. And I was also a court liaison where the judges would have me come into their chambers early in the morning with the district attorney and decide who would be a good candidate for substance abuse programs and who probably wouldn't. And so I just was really doing all these fantastic stuff that I never done before in the community. But still, far as that was just stuff I did. It wasn't who I was. And the only thing I could relate to who Alex was the gang member that I had been since 12 years old. And so, but I was fighting that identity. I was really fighting not to be that person, but I didn't really know who am I? All this other stuff is what I did, but it wasn't who I am. And I had no clue who Alex was. And as a type 9 on the Enneagram, we're so self-forgetting and we already think that we're nobody special.
Mm-hmm.
So who am I? And I had not a clue. And then when life met me face to face, and I had an affair, and my wife found out, and I got put out the house, and I'm back on the streets. And so now I'm in survival mode, and my survival mode says the way I know how to live is, going to sell drugs or whatever. And all my old behavior came right back in, and all the identity I'm fighting not to be, which was a gang member, and all the destructive behaviors that go with it, came flooding in like I never changed. It was like I never ever changed. It was like you turned the light on, and then there it was. And so when I ended up back incarcerated, and full of guilt, full of shame, because I did something that I totally knew better than to do. And I knew better to go do anything for my past. And I was just riddled with guilt, shame, drowning, so to the point of just worthlessness. And then when Susan Olesic came that one day and invited those some of us that were in a correctional program already to come and just see what this was about. And I didn't want to go because I seen the symbol and the symbol. I'm like, oh, I can't do that. That's a code. I can't. But everything she was saying, I was resonating with, and I was like, this is what I need. Because I think the part where she said, this answers the why we do what we do. And I really wanted to know who gets released off of a life prison, do all this fantastic stuff, becomes a substance abuse counselor, and get busted for selling drugs. Who do that? Apparently I do, but why? And I wanted to know why. And that was the thing that drew me more than the symbol. Even though that symbol was a code, I was convinced it was. But something inside of me kept on saying, no, go to this class, go to this class. And I went.
Mm-hmm.
And I began to hear things that resonated with me deeply, deeply resonated. How I would go along to get along, how I wouldn't really speak my truth because if I speak my truth, I was afraid that whoever I spoke my truth to would disconnect from me and didn't want to have nothing to do. And I wanted connection so bad with people. I wanted connection with people that mattered,
Mhm.
and so um I will always not speak my truth. And I go along to get along, and my going along to get along always got me somewhere where I didn't want to be or in some type of trouble. And it made so much sense to me. And then one day, when one of Susan's friends knows the Enneagram, she's a type nine who's teaching type nine, and she asked me this fantastic question that brought me to tears. She asked me, "What does Alex need?"
Wow.
And I couldn't answer it. I could not answer. I did not have an answer in my entire being. And it brought me to tears. And I always feel the same thing every time I tell the story. And this was in 2014. That's like 11 years ago. And I feel it right now. But I promised myself that day that I would never, ever not be able to answer that question again. And that was the beginning. That
Wow.
was, yeah.
That's a beautiful story. And I'm glad you backed up a little bit to give us that context
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
who you are today. I'm um I'm always amazed and continue to be amazed at how much the Enneagram, people might say the Enneagram isn't scientifically, measured and researched and all these kinds of stuff, but the truths
Yeah.
and the wisdom that it provides is really uncanny, and it's so timely when we get into those insights uh,
Right.
that just suddenly hit us like a ton of bricks sometimes. Yeah.
Right. So the one phrase and I'm full of phrases, let me just warn
I
you.
love that.
The one phrase that I always share with the individuals that I get to share the Enneagram with is that you have to be willing to be brutally honest to yourself, with yourself, about yourself.
Hmm.
And that's what it took for me.
Hmm.
I mean, don't I didn't leave room for I guess any compromise. I was just so brutally honest with myself
Hmm.
about the things that you I was even embarrassed that I did and
Hmm.
how I thought, but I was honest about it, and I said, "Oh, that's what I do." And the realization to be able to say, "Oh, that's what I do," then I was able to start accepting why I did it, and
Yeah.
that's what really helped my transformation.
So when, Alex, were you able to then finally start articulating, even to yourself, what it is that Alex needed?
um, that day,
You were able to go there. Good.
that
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
and the reason was because my habit was to always look outside.
Hmm.
And the reason, and I can give you the reason why I always looked outside, because who wants to look at something that they don't like?
Yeah.
You know, who, which was me. I did not like myself. I did not have no love for me, even though my ego would say, "Oh, Alex, I love Alex," but no, I did not love Alex. And I was full of guilt, full of shame, full of unworthiness. And then when I look at all the years of incarceration that I did, all the years of prison, how I abandoned my children, I abandoned my family, you know, and so I had to really look at that stuff. But
Hmm.
that's what I did. That's not who I am. And then by looking at it, I was able to start looking at the reasons why, though.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then when I started looking at the reason why, one thing Susan Olesic taught me, and David Daniels also taught me because he was alive then, and he would teach me a lot, is to how to be kind and patient to Alex. When I would, adhere to these things, when I would discover these behaviors, but be kind and patient to Alex, and that was so important to me. As opposed, David Daniels used to say, "Put down the bat and drop the skillet." Because I
Hmm.
would just annihilate myself with all the things. And that's supposed to be kind and patient and then have an understanding of this is the reason, these are the origins why I do what I do.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. You already mentioned some sort of classic Enneagram Nine patterns and habits of behavior like self-forgetting. And you also mentioned going along to get along.
Mhm.
which comes for which is a sort of a habit Enneagram nines have, because going along to get along is the way to avoid conflict.
Right.
And nines will try to avoid conflict at all costs if they can. And what are some of the other sort of unique nine qualities that just popped for you, those patterns and habits that prior to knowing the Enneagram, you wouldn't have been maybe as self-aware, but then once you learned the tool, what came alive for you mostly?
Oh,
Where you kind, sometimes we read our Enneagram type and we say busted, like somebody read my
yeah,
journal, right?
right. So the one thing, and I have another phrase is there's no big I's, no little U's. Okay, because everybody's important to me in my world. Everybody's important. It doesn't matter your status, doesn't matter your social class, doesn't matter your financial bank statements. None of that matters. There's no big I's, no little U's, and I always gravitate towards those who are less than. I do. I've been that way my whole life, and I didn't know why, because of the wholeness and the unity of the Type Nine, and
Mhm.
so and I see everybody. I see the importance of every single person that has breath.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I've always been that way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
really beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, my goodness. Enneagram nines, they say, because they sit at the very top of the
Mhm.
diagram that you were doubting. But they say that they're the ones who are sort of closest to the light.
Right.
And in some
Right.
ways, they say type 4 and 5, who are at the bottom, are the ones that are closest to the darkness or the depth. It's
Hmm.
like they're willing to go into the mystery and the depth, and the nine really see the light in everybody and hopefully in themselves as well. Um,
That
yeah.
that if I could that's very important too, and that's what my biggest struggle was because I never thought I was enough. I wasn't important. I just was not that important because I
Mhm.
didn't see the light in myself. I can see it in you and I can see it in everybody else, but I've always left Alex out.
Yeah.
But there's another phrase I have, and, excuse me, and that is the river of life flows from the inside out. And it was important that I start nurturing the light inside of me,
Yeah.
and then and what motivated me to nurture the light inside of me is that once I understood that the brighter, whatever it is I nurture inside, that's what's going to flow out of me. Okay. And
Mhm.
then that way I can even be a brighter light to those outside of me. And I can
Mhm.
be more helpful and more encouraging and more supportive to anyone else that I go to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
beautiful.
that's what motivated me to done.
I'm curious. So, many of us, whether incarcerated in prison or not, we live in many years sometimes in pain and in loss and in survival mode.
Mhm.
I'm curious, how did the Enneagram help you respond to those old wounds with more compassion and clarity, like to kind of shine that light on yourself?
Right.
You are so willing and able to shine it on others. How did sort of Enneagram tools help you heal those old wounds? What were you specifically doing?
So I'm going to back up a long ways on
Mhm.
this one.
Mhm.
Well, one of my challenges in life was I was an alcoholic at 5 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was an alcoholic. I just never really thought that I was really worth anything. And the reason I became an alcoholic at 5 years old because when I was a baby, my mom would give me beer in my bottle, which would sedate me, and I would go to sleep. And so as I grew older, I had issues with my mom because I blamed her, but what happened with the Enneagram, we also use the ACEs. I don't know if you're
Yes,
aware.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So we use the ACEs. And so when I did the ACEs, I scored 9 out of 10 on the ACEs.
Just to
And
pause for a moment, just for anyone listening who might not know, ACEs is a score that comes out. It's an acronym for Adverse Childhood Experiences.
right,
Yeah, and
exactly.
anybody can take that test online for free.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so with the ACEs, and I took the ACEs and I did, like I said, score 9 out of 10. I started seeing for the first time, I started understanding my mom. Because my mom did not have a child to say, I'm going to turn him into an alcoholic. She didn't do that. That wasn't her intentions. And never once did I ever look at her trauma and all the stuff that she went through. So I'm the second child. I had a sister that was already 2 years old when I was born. And my mom, who is full-blooded Native American, okay, she was adopted by a black family in Los Angeles, but she was originally from Oklahoma, and her mom died of a heart attack on a city bus waiting for a bus to come. And so she ended up in the system. She ended up being adopted all the way in Los Angeles. So she was stripped from her whole culture. She was stripped from her culture. She was raised by a by a black family, and everything about her was just stripped. And she was raised that way. And so my mom used to always say one thing, and it didn't make sense until I discovered this. She says, "Y'all didn't come with instructions." So that means she was telling us right there, I don't know what I'm doing. But I didn't ever hear that like that until later on in life. And so it started having, I started having a lot of compassion for my mom and all that she's been through and all that she had to endure. And she had six children, all of us with different fathers, except for the last two.
Mhm.
So she was really having a hard time in life herself. And so I started having that compassion, and I really started saying, I found forgiveness for my mom because she didn't, like I said, didn't have no child to turn him into an alcoholic. And so I started having forgiveness for her. And the forgiveness I had for her, I started forgiving myself. And I started really, really exploring really what's good about Alex. And that was very important because up to that point, I didn't think there was really nothing good about me.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. You've said on many times now how you didn't really consider yourself to matter or as important. And that's another classic sign of a nine where they sort of, we say nines blend into the couch or the drapes. And they and they, yeah, yeah. And so, and that also is because a nine will resist showing up sometimes because it could lead to potential conflict.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And so the conflict, that's the other thing though. Uh, Anger is the thing that um, one would deny, but I did not deny anger.
Hmm.
I embrace anger, but my anger always got me in trouble
Hmm.
because I didn't matter, and I didn't. But I wanted respect. I wanted people to respect me.
Hmm.
It's okay if I didn't think I didn't matter, but I'm not going to let you treat me like I didn't matter. And I
Hmm.
got into a because in my environment, in my household, was full of violence. It was full of violence. So and my I seen that if I don't be violent, I'm going to get abused. I'm going to get taken advantage of.
Hmm.
So and then plus my mom, she would drink and she had a lot of conflict with men. And I wasn't gonna. I love my mama regardless. I love my mama, and so I I would always have to fight grown men when I was a child, and I had a bat to protect my mom.
Hmm.
So I was a violent individual. I
Hmm.
was a violent individual, but I never boast about being violent. I didn't go around walking to be violent, But if I felt you disrespecting me or going to do something to me, I got violent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a nine, Alex, how do you deal with conflict now? If you're faced
Uh,
with conflict now, what do you do? Because this would be really helpful.
so yeah, this is really good because I'm full of words. I'm full of words, and because of all my experiences in life, I sense violence. I sense it coming. I sense people getting agitated. I sense people getting aggressive, and I
Hmm.
ask them, "Why are you being aggressive now? What's going on with you?"
Wow.
I ask, and I said because I want to help you. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to hurt you. And I
Hmm.
share that with people, and people I disarm them that away because I don't want to hurt nobody. And today I know that I'm supposed to be the one to help people, and so I let them know that, and I ask them, and then I get them to the point to where they're comfortable with me, and they start to open up and share things. So
Hmm.
words are how I go about life today.
Wow. It's words and it's practicing genuine curiosity.
Yes, yes,
In
definitely.
sort of the tone, even in how you said, why are you becoming aggressive in that sense,
Mhm.
rather than why are you doing that?
Right,
Like
exactly.
totally
Yeah.
different. When you practice compassion and curiosity, I could feel it in my body, just the way that I would respond to you. It's just like, oh, you want to know? I'd love
Yeah.
to share. Yeah.
Right.
It just
Yeah. So
creates a much more, the gift of the Enneagram is that sense of creating harmony.
yes, and it comes out, it just flows out. And I
Yeah.
nurture it. I do nurture it inside because I give it to myself first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
So,
and it's really helpful because I do work with individuals who are recently released from incarceration. I work with individuals who are in drug addiction. I'm really helpful. I'm really involved in our homeless population here in Santa Clara County. So
mhm. That's really wonderful because my next question was going to ask you a little bit about what you do now as an ambassador. You're kind of promoting a lot of goodness in the world, and I'm also just curious, with a tool like the Enneagram, what's the level of curiosity or resistance that people who are in the system right now, do they have a curiosity or is there a lot of resistance?
we're at San Quentin every once a week. And so
Hmm.
I'll use that experience there. And so these individuals there come with so much curiosity.
Hmm.
They engage with the program because for the first time, I'm learning and I'm observing for the first time somebody cares about them. And the Enneagram actually is it's about yourself. And so they get discover about themselves. And I relate to the point they want to know why, because I wanted to know why. Why did I do what I do? Why did I do that? And so they also want to know that too. So they really engage. Every now and then we get some resistance, but the individual keep coming back, and sooner or later they open up to it. And
Yeah.
yeah, because the compassion approach that we use, and that's so important. And I have to keep on emphasizing that because that's the whole key that I learned. And that's
Mhm.
how Susan was able to get me to do stuff that I didn't want to do. But
Mhm.
when you asked me with such a compassionate tone in your voice and in such a compassionate way, I had no choice but to say yes. And this compassion that we all have as humans, we have it. It's just
Mhm.
a matter of activating it and giving it. And so that with the compassionate approach that we use with the curriculum, individuals are really starting to discover what's good about themselves.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So you spoke about sort of dealing with conflict, which is such a primordial challenge for an Enneagram Nine. You said I use my words and I use my sort of genuine curiosity around finding out more about the other person. How would you deal with conflict, that desire or that need to sort of stand up for yourself at certain times? How do you do that differently these days?
Well, yeah. So
And the conflict could be an inner conflict, may not even involve anyone else.
right. So the fact that a lot of times I want to do what I call a Bert.
Okay.
Bert, yeah, and Bert was a character on a soap opera, a sitcom called Soap
Okay.
years ago, and Bert
Uh-huh.
would just do like this and disappear. I don't want to be involved in this conversation. I don't want to be involved in this environment, and so he does like this and disappear. I I used to do the Bert,
Uh-huh.
but no, today, today, the one thing about Alex is that I know I'm a difference maker. I know it. I know that I'm on this earth to make a difference with people, with situations, with circumstances and environments. And so therefore I have to stay there and I have to be willing to overcome my fears, my thoughts of unworthiness, my thoughts that I don't matter. I have to overcome those. And
Mm.
because I know that those thoughts and they come, but I know they're not the truth.
Yeah.
And I have to go forth to just use my words to speak to that situation, to speak to the individual, to whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's gorgeous. I always like the idea of practicality and just, being practical human beings. If you were to meet people these days, what would you offer as practical ideas for, people you meet, but also our listeners? Given that it has now been many years since you've discovered the Enneagram,
Mhm.
do you sometimes, still get caught up or fixated by those personality traits? And what practices, small practices, daily things that help you stay present and stay hopeful and to choose something wiser.
Yeah. So I'm reminded to always take a breath.
Take a
I,
breath.
I used to didn't think that had nothing. That could not be the answer. No, but no, yeah, take a breath. And by me taking a breath in the midst of something, it helps me stay connected with Alex.
Mhm.
And I have to stay connected with myself, or my survival mode mechanisms kick in and all that. But to breathe and really, really just stay present and to speak my truth.
Mhm.
And it's so important to speak my truth. I can't worry about if I speak my truth, somebody's going to not want to be involved with me or whatever. No, I have to speak the truth to the situation.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
and the only way I can speak truth is by staying present for me.
Beautiful, beautiful. At the Prison Mindfulness Institute, we say the breath is my ally.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
totally,
beautiful.
totally. I lived so long not being me. I
Mm.
lived so long being in survival mode that I just love being who I really am and let the essence of who I really am come forth into this world.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So,
that's beautiful. So we started off by you sharing a story about how your teacher, when you were just getting into this stuff, had asked you, "What does Alex need?"
mhm.
And that was an opening point for you. And now after all these years, Alex, I want to reframe that question because I'm curious what you might share with us. What does Alex desire these days?
Wow. That's a great question. Um, I truly desire to grow more. I desire for the Enneagram in itself to really go and be taught in marginalized communities.
Mm,
And so what I'm learning, in order for that to happen, we have to have people that looks like the individuals in the marginalized communities because they will receive it a lot better. They will welcome it. And high schools everywhere, along with prisons everywhere.
that's
That's
beautiful.
that's what
Yeah.
I desire.
Yeah. And then I can hear in that also you're desiring for others. I'm curious to just pin you down a little bit. What do you
Uh,
desire for yourself?
oh, for Alex?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's cool. You, it's funny, but and it's just a desire, and who knows, it could come true. But I desire to really be a great spokesperson to the point of maybe even politics.
That's awesome. Yes, we
Yeah,
need more self-aware, kind, compassionate, intelligent beings to be in politics for sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's the
Alex,
honest truth.
yeah, beautiful. Alex, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to share with the audience?
Oh, he covered a lot. That was a lot. And I just really what I like to share is that we all matter. We all matter. And even though right now in our communities, in our society, in our world, in the nation, it looks pretty bad. But each one of us are the change that this world needs. Each one of us. And all we have to do is just take a breath and speak our truth.
Oh, that's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. I certainly hope that our paths cross again, that we get to learn from you, be guided by you, be inspired by you. So be well, Alex. I wish you all the best in your journey, your continued advancement.